I got my Bills pullover today. Yeah, I'm wearing my Bills hoodie. I think they got the best shot at winning a championship of all my sports teams. It's hour number 2 of the Ron Potesta Show. Let's go to the hotline where we find Andrew Donaldson from Fox News Radio. So, Andrew, the vice president made some news. Vice President Kamala Harris is warning that, or Kamala Harris, excuse me, she's warning the, quote, rights of all Americans are at risk. And she is also saying, quote, what is clear is that opponents of Roe want to punish women and take away their rights to make decisions about their own bodies. Andrew Donaldson, what do you make of the vice president's comments?
This is rhetoric from somebody who has absolutely no say in the process going forward. We know what's going to happen over the next couple of months. This is all set in stone, even though this decision kind of got jump-started. It was expected sometime in June. When this comes out, all the states, there's 26 of them, actually have kick-in clauses the second it happens. The rest will be legislated. And let's be honest, it's an election year, so all the state legislatures are going to address this once it goes down. And then those will all go back into court. None of those processes involve the vice president. None of those involve the president. None of those involve the White House. They're doing a whole lot of rhetoric because they need to fundraise. They need to fire up a base in the election year. But that's all it is rhetoric, because they can do absolutely nothing about anything about the process that's going to unfold now for the next couple of months, quite frankly, probably for the next couple of years.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, and you did break up a little bit there, Andrew, this is going to go back to the states where it should have been all along.
That's correct. And 26 states already have on their books exactly what's going to happen. So a lot of this process is automatic. And once that happens, those cases will all get thrown into court. There'll be lawsuits for each and every one of those, just like there'll be court cases against what the Supreme Court rules. So again, this process is all pretty automatic from this point on. We've been seeing it for the last 40 years. We're just getting ready to start it all over again. And the vice president doesn't have a say in any of this. There's nothing they can do other than the rhetoric. So they're going to crank the rhetoric up. They've got a big fundraising boost on Tuesday morning because of this, and they're going to try to use it to fire their base up. But that's all it is. It's rhetoric. It's base firing up. There's nothing they can do about this. Congress isn't going to move on it. And this is just kind of, it's kind of a temper tantrum, really.
Fox News Radio correspondent Andrew Donaldson joining me. We're talking about Roe v. Wade and the very real possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. And I guess from the Democrat standpoint, some folks are saying that this is just the start of things that are going to be overturned. There's fear amongst some of the Democrats that this is now going to turn the heads to taking out gay marriage and then taking out the rights of those that are LGBTQ, ABC. What do you say about those possibilities, Andrew?
Well, again, if any of those cases do go down in the Supreme Court, none of that becomes illegal. All of that goes back to the states, just like Roe v. Wade. What's going to happen with the abortion issue right now is it's going to go to the states, and it's going to be like alcohol, like gun control, like firearms legislation. Each state's going to be a little different. So blue states, more progressive states, they're probably actually going to get less abortion controls. They're going to get more pro-choice freedoms that folks want. The conservative states, they're going to get a lot less, and we already see a lot of the legislation being written. That's why this case, like Dobbs versus Mississippi, which is the case at hand here, this is how this is going to go. So everybody, first of all, there's a big misunderstanding of what the Supreme Court does. They're not outlawing anything. They're taking a ruling and overturning it, which means it's going to go back to the previous law. And people haven't taken a breath to see what the previous law is. But again, the rhetoric, this is a campaign season. This is the hottest of hot-button issues for the culture wars. And this is how people are going to address it, and they don't stop and see the legal part of what's actually going to happen here.
Andrew Donaldson from Fox News Radio joining me on the hotline. Andrew, there's talk, obviously, if this does get overturned, there is some talk amongst the Democrats that they will do everything in their power to stop the pending red tidal wave. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, could this have some consequences come November in terms of how far the Republican Party goes in advancement with trying to take over Congress and the U.S. Senate. I guess my question, could this be a roadblock which fires up the Democrat base so much that the tidal wave becomes more of a ripple?
Yeah, you're a sports guy. Let me give you a stat of the day. There's 33 Senate races this cycle. Do you know how many Democratic Senate candidates were running ads about abortion? One. So, and then poll after poll after poll, this wasn't even in the top 8 or 9 things. The latest AP poll, it didn't even register. This is going to be really loud in the fundraising sphere. This is going to be really loud on the online sphere. This is going to be really loud in the news network sphere. It's still the economy, stupid. It's still going to be inflation. It's still going to be foreign policy like what's going on with Ukraine. Those are going to be the things folks go to the ballot box. Now, of course, folks that are really upset about this issue, they'll be motivated. But we already know from the data and the polling, those are folks that are already motivated. Anyway, I doubt this has a really huge impact other than it will boost fundraising in the near term.
Andrew Donaldson, Fox News Radio, joining me on the hotline. Andrew, once this does get overturned, because it's only a matter of when this gets overturned, do you expect any blowback, any protests that we saw kind of like January the 6th? Could you see a protest of that magnitude?
Well, remember, we've already seen in recent lineage, only a year ago, where a bunch of protesters actually were banging on the door of the Supreme Court. Now, that was more silly than dangerous, thankfully. But you've always got to worry about the crazy people because this is one of the most impassioned issues of our day. So, yeah, there's crazy makers on both sides, to be fair, that folks can get out of hand with this issue. It's something that should be addressed, especially with the way this leaked out of the court. And there's no such thing as a leak. Somebody put it out because they wanted it out. The court should have extra protection. People should be on guard. And people should be very careful with their rhetoric and flaming it, like the rhetoric you just quoted from the vice president. You don't want to fire people up more so than they already are because people will do very dangerous things when they feel like they're cornered.
You mentioned the leaking of this document via the Politico. If this person is caught, do you or is there a chance that the person gets punished to the fullest extent of the law?
Well, there's probably, believe it or not, nothing illegally done here, believe it or not. Untoward, yes. And this person has probably ruined their political career, but let's assume it's a progressive person that leaked this because that makes more sense. That person is going to have a nice fat golden parachute. They are going to be a living legend in media. They are going to have all sorts of book deals and everything else. The folks on the left that are pro-choice and pro-abortion are going to idolize this person. So I don't think they're going to miss a whole lot of meals. They'll be a legal pariah because they can never be hired again in the legal term, but they pretty much know what they're doing, and this was calculated, if that's the way it turns out to be.
Andrew Donaldson from Fox News Radio, thanks for joining me. We'll talk soon.
Hey, thank you so much for your time. Do it again anytime you'd like.
You got it. Andrew Donaldson from Fox News Radio talking about Roe v. Wade. And Otis, it appears more and more like Roe v. Wade is going to get overturned and sent back to what it should have been all along, and that's the states to make the decision.
Yep, and this was leaked on purpose. This was there because the Democrats are doing so poorly everywhere with the inflation, with the border, with Ukraine, with gas prices, with everything else, that they had to get something that would fire up the base, and this was it.
Be curious to see if this has any, implications for November. We'll see what happens when we flip the calendar into the fall and the general election in November. All right, we're going to take a break.